Hey, supply chainers, wherever you are in the world, this is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone. I am back with you today for Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, as well as the Blended Pledge. Now, I am coming at you live from Atlanta. That's right. I flew in from Las Vegas yesterday. I was in Las Vegas the last week at the Procurement Foundry Forge Engage conference. And let me tell you, I met so many amazing LinkedIn friends in person and really just had a great time. They put on a really good event and super grateful for them for having me, and great to see everybody. I got to see the Shin Lim magic show on, I think it was Saturday night. And so that was a lot of fun as well. Susan Walsh is still there for another conference, and I am here in Atlanta for the Woman in Supply Chain conference that is kicking off this afternoon. And I will be the keynote, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that next week. Well, today with me is Mr. Supply Chain, Daniel Stanton. But before we get to him, we definitely have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Emerge. So Emerge is proud to partner with Thoughts and Coffee to elevate our combined focus on empowering and growing meaningful relationships in the freight industry. The first and only freight-specific RFP platform, Emerge is reinventing freight procurement by offering solutions that enhance the spot and contract procurement process, enabling shippers to make the most strategic decisions possible, saving invaluable time and enhancing productivity. Learn more at emergemarket.com/thoughts and coffee. And before he's going to come up and join us, we need to talk about what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain. I hope you guys had a really good time with Audrey last week. Audrey and Claire Sia. I heard that it was a really, really fun time. So it is now the first Monday of November. And so that means that we've got a Woman in Supply Chain episode. And this episode is with Charlie Safro. If you have not met Charlie, I was able to meet her in person in Chicago just a few weeks ago. And she owns CS Recruiting in Supply Chain. And if you're not following her, you definitely need to go and follow her. But listen to this episode because we dive into her journey and what that's looked like and how it's been being an entrepreneur in supply chain, being a mother and an entrepreneur, and so much more. She's got some really, really great advice. So go and check that out. It's over on letstalksupplychain.com or our YouTube channel or wherever you subscribe to the show. Now, what else is happening? Ooh, I do have to let you know that the Blended podcast is celebrating 2 years this month, and the Blended Pledge is celebrating 1 year this month as well. We have raised over $20,000 over the last year, and we've given away 2 grants. And we're just getting ready to give away some more because our applications are open. So go and definitely check that out. What else do we have going on? Oh, Sifted. So we've got a brand new mini series. That's right. We did a mini series with them in September. And now we've got another mini series happening over on letstalksupplychain.com with Sifted. And this time we're talking about driving your parcel performance. So kind of take on maybe Formula One and car racing, and how we take a look at the dashboard and what's under the hood to really make sure that you're making the most of your parcel contracts, especially right now, because UPS and FedEx have upped the rates, but your prices really don't have to increase. And the only way to find out more about that is to go and check out our mini series. So we had our first episode come out last Thursday. The second one's going to come out this Thursday, and we've got 4 coming out this month. Next up, we've got some live events. So Mercado, Rob from Mercado, goes live at 12 p.m. Eastern today with First Things First, an importer's guide on what not to do. Ooh, I'm not going to miss that. And I hope you guys aren't going to miss that either. And then on Friday, we've got DC with action items, peak season challenges, and remaining agile. All right. Well, that is it for the update on what's happening with Let's Talk Supply Chain. Without further ado, let's make sure that we give Mr. Supply Chain, Daniel Stanton, a big round of applause. Thanks for joining us today.
Sarah, I get dizzy trying to keep up with all of the stuff you're doing. Amazing things happening over on your end. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got a lot going on. We've got even more planned for 2023, but don't tell anybody.
Okay, it'll be our little secret.
I can't wait. I can't wait to share it. All right. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows who you are, but for anybody who does not know, give us your introduction.
I'm Mr. Supply Chain, right? So, author of Supply Chain Management for Dummies, professor at Bradley University and University of Arkansas, student at Cranfield University over in the UK, and LinkedIn Learning instructor like you.
Amazing. I know. And we're going to be talking all about some of the new things that you've got coming up too. I mean, you've got a new course, you've got a new book. Do you want to just sort of maybe mention that? We can talk a little bit more about it in our third article, but let's mention it now.
Let's start off with the things that are keeping me up at night because I'm not right. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. What a great way to start the morning. So I've just finished up and turned in the manuscript for the third edition of Supply Chain Management for Dummies, which, you know, when you work in supply chain, I feel so bad for my editor because she's like, are you done yet? I'm like, no. I got one more thing. Let me look at it one more time. And we finally got to the place that she said, Daniel, pencils down.
That is so funny. But with all the disruptions and all the crazy things that's been happening in supply chain, you kind of can't put your pencil down.
Right. And every week there's a fascinating new startup or a company gets acquired or a company spins off or, and you know, the thing with Supply Chain Management for Dummies is I do my best to try to explain it all. Right. And for it to be current, for it to be practical, so that if you get like dropped down in the middle of a problem, you'd be like, well, you know, give me a book that I can read in a day that will help me understand all of this. So that was fun. And I really appreciated that from my editor. She's like, okay, this is the day that I need to start working on it. Pencils down. We're taking it from here. And I love it. Great editor. And I love working with the For Dummies team. Because they really do a great job of being, like I describe it as being my first students, right? So like, they just be like, I don't get it. You got to explain this better. I do not get this, but the end product is amazing. So,
and that's perfect.
And so the publication date officially is February of next year.
Okay.
But I know we're way ahead of schedule. So I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that forward a lot. But it is available for pre-order on Amazon. I think we've got that link if folks want it. So it's sort of hidden away in Amazon. They're still trying to sell off the current edition. something about clearing out inventory before restocking.
Oh, we're going to be talking about that today.
Right? But you can pre-order it. And Amazon has a great deal, which is if you pre-order the book, if they do any kind of a special or a promotion between the time you pre-order it and when it's released, they'll honor the lowest price.
Okay.
So it's a nice little game theory thing that they throw in. So that's one. And then the other thing, now that I'm pencils down on the new For Dummies book, I'm working on a new course for LinkedIn Learning. And I'm not sure that I can talk about that. But except like nobody's going to be surprised that I'm working on another LinkedIn Learning course.
Not really.
Right. It's like, okay, that's nice. The thing that is kind of cool over on the LinkedIn Learning side is a challenge that I ran into working in big global supply chain companies is, you know, when you're trying to train everybody, when you're trying to get everybody on the same page, it can be difficult if the training, like literally the exact same training, isn't available localized, meaning in different languages, right? Because what can happen is you learn sort of one approach in one country and another approach in a different country, and they're literally in different languages. And it doesn't help to solve all of those problems. LinkedIn Learning has now started taking our courses and translating the English language courses across lots
Awesome.
of different languages. And the practical benefit to that for folks that work in global supply chain organizations is you can literally have everybody take the same class in their native language so that you're all getting the same
All the
perspective.
same. That is and so that is awesome, and that's one of the reasons why I franchised Let's Talk Supply Chain, so that we can have the same kinds of conversations in different regions, because it's very important that we get on the same page. So I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm glad that you're coming out with a new course and a new book. So many amazing things happening. What are you seeing? I'm just curious. Give me a little bit of a market update on what you are seeing. Like, what's the biggest thing that you're seeing in supply chain right now that people are talking about?
It's the bullwhip effect, right? I mean, we all knew it was
You've
coming.
you've been
We're
talking
not
about this since like
surprised. We're not
2020.
surprised, right? I mean, it's the big wave, and the question is, what's the amplitude? How high does it go? And
Yeah,
what's the frequently? How long is frequency?
right.
How long is it going to take for it to spring back? So, it looks like on the shipping side and the trucking side, rates are where they were pre-COVID, and maybe continuing to
Mm,
go down, which is exactly what we would anticipate, right? Rates go through the roof. That means if you're in the business of transportation capacity, you're building out more capacity. You're trying to
mhm,
capture all of that revenue. And at some point, demand is going to normalize, right?
mhm.
We overshoot. We always do it. And now we're coming down the other side. Um,
Yep.
so we'll see. Well, from everything I can see, transportation rates are coming back down, normalizing exactly what we'd sort of predict. Um, Seems like warehouse capacity utilization is still really high, meaning
Yep.
warehouses are full of stuff. Typically, what happens during the bullwhip effect is you end up with a lot of stuff, but it's the wrong stuff, right?
We're gonna talk about that because I got a second article about this that I was
Yeah.
like, we need to talk about this with Mr. Supply Chain.
Right. And we can talk. I know you wanted to talk about Nike. I just had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine on who works in computers and semiconductors, and it seems like we're seeing the same thing there, right? Where
Mm.
we've gone from crisis and shortage to now we've got abundance, but it's the wrong stuff.
Yeah. Well, and they're also spending billions and billions of dollars to create factories so that we don't have that shortage happening in the future. So, what is the solution here? I'm not sure. We're seeing all sorts of people,
The solution is always supply chain management,
there we
right?
go.
You've
Bring it back,
right? You've
Daniel.
got
Bring
to
it back.
understand how the system works, and you can't control all of it,
Mhm.
but you can position yourself to take advantage of the upsides and avoid a lot of the significant risks that can sink somebody who doesn't understand the supply chain.
Okay, well, since we're talking about inventory and overstocked, I'm going to go to the second article first. So I'm totally messing the show up on you, Daniel. All right, so this article talks about how Nike shares fall as overstock inventory weighs on earnings.
Yeah,
So they've overbought, as you have said. They have inventory of the wrong product. But it's interesting to me, right? Because when I was in Vegas, we went into Walgreens and we I went to a certain part of the store and shelves were empty. Like, we're talking about kids medicine and all sorts of things. So we're seeing shortages in areas that we've never seen before. But then Nike has overstocks of product that they don't need. And, now what?
right.
Like, what are we seeing here?
I am 100% a believer in getting ground truth by going out and looking in the field. But also you have to think about your sampling. So um, with Nike, we have data that probably better be pretty good because right they've got like accounting rules they have to follow
Yep.
and Federal Trade Commission,
Mhm.
um, and and in their case, like, I mean, you just think about how the supply chain works. We had this huge increase in demand, right? We were
Mhm.
all at home, and apparently a lot of people. Well, I know I spent a lot more time walking, right? Literally I went through more shoes during the pandemic because I could walk in my neighborhood. I was
Right.
so there was some increase in demand, but also just we didn't have anything else to do with all the money, so why not buy tennis shoes, right? Well, I mean, the only thing that Nike can do is look at the data. You make data-driven decisions based on what your sales are,
Yeah.
and you forecast out. Now, throw into that all the delays, all of the
Mhm.
shutdowns. So now you need safety stock, and you've got stuff showing up after you wanted it. Of course you're going to end up with this glut of inventory,
Mhm.
right? And the natural reaction is, oh my goodness, shut down all the factories, don't buy anymore. We got to get rid of all of this inventory. Let's discount this and get it out the door. And that is literally how the bullwhip works, right?
Well, and they're not really talking about that though. They're talking about getting new stock in front of consumers rather than the stock that they've just bought. And so from a waste standpoint, like
From a
what is this going to look like?
I mean that's exactly right. So I'll say I think from a supply chain perspective, that's the right answer. Is to treat the past as the past. That's a sunk cost.
Okay.
Let's find the best way to handle all of this old stuff, but let's try and get our supply chain working normally again,
Again.
rather than this, turn it on, turn it off, which is kind of the knee jerk reaction.
Yeah.
That leads us to a bigger conversation, though, and I'm going to make a plug because I'm in Peoria, Illinois right now, which is the home of natural fiber welding, which has released a new Allbirds, the shoe brand, has
Yep.
released a new shoe made with natural fiber welding material. Real quick, let me explain. No plastics, all made 100% from nutrients. You wear the shoe. When you're done with the shoe, you can recycle it into new shoes, or
Oh.
you can grind it up and use it to fertilize the garden.
Wow, I love that. There's a
And
couple of shoe brands that are coming out with that. I think there's another one that actually has a seed in the sole of the shoe. And so when you're done with the shoe and you bury the shoe, it turns into a tree.
right? I
Yeah.
haven't seen that. I love that idea. And it helps you totally reframe the Nike issue, right? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, it's bad. We invested a lot of energy and resources to make
Yeah.
something, but
Yeah.
it's not as bad as, hey, that's a lot of like petroleum and plastics that, now
Mhm.
is, we've extracted it from the ground and now we're putting it in the air and the water,
Well, and you're gonna flood the market with your brand, even if it is at cheaper prices so that, other people can potentially afford to buy it.
right? Well, and this is the issue that the European brands have run into for years is,
Mhm.
part of the value of these high-end brands is you keep it exclusive. You don't
Right.
have it floating around,
Yeah.
where people can buy it cheap. So, they I'm trying to remember which brand it was. I probably shouldn't say it even if I could remember, but there was an issue that they were like burning purses,
Mm.
and there were huge protests. Like we've got people all over the world that need this stuff. You've already
Yeah.
made it. How can you just destroy it? But from the brand perspective, it's, well, this is how we keep it exclusive.
Mm. Okay. So that
All right.
actually brings me to our next article, which is about free returns. Now, this is something I am so glad we're talking about this today because I have never understood how you're offering free returns when you got to cover cost of shipping, labor for processing, preparing for resale, sorting. Like there's so many costs. And actually, this article talks about 66% of the price of product is the actual cost when processing and recycling or reselling that return, which is crazy. And some staggering numbers here. In 2020, $100 billion were sent back. In 2021, $218 billion worth of products sent back. That's by the National Retail Federation. That's where I got those numbers from. Daniel, it's about time these retailers are charging. I don't want to be charged, but they have to. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to stay in business.
So I think we've had this talk before, Sarah. I put free shipping and free returns into the same category as Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. They don't exist, right? And supply chain people know that they don't exist.
I hope
It's
there's
this
nobody with little
lie.
kids listening.
It's a lie that we, right? Sorry, kids and marketing
Should have had a
executives,
disclaimer.
right? That somebody is, we are paying for it as customers, and the companies are lying to us to make us happy and gain market share. The truth is, it makes a lot more sense in a brick and mortar environment, right? Because by offering, easy returns, what you're actually doing is drawing your customer back into the store. And once you've got them in there, you can do impulse buy, you build brand loyalty. I mean, there are ways that you can recoup the costs on in-store returns if you manage that well and make it a good experience for customers.
Yeah.
Doing it online where you're paying somebody else to take the trip to the store rather than the customer, and you don't have that same opportunity for free returns, it's hard. And so I'm glad to see it getting priced. But I also know, because the consumer expectation is that it will be free, right? It's not a change in business model. It's a change in culture, and none of us want to pay for that. And I blame Amazon, right? They screwed this up for everybody else. And the truth is, it probably kind of works okay for Amazon because of scale.
Well, and they also charge a membership fee.
Right.
Like, this is what we don't really think about, is there's a yearly membership fee that everybody is paying over and above what they're paying on Amazon, because sometimes you're still paying shipping fees. Right. And so that fee actually, it covers a lot of different things for them. So that's really the difference between Amazon and another retailer that's not charging a membership fee. Now, if anybody wants to doesn't want to pay this return fee, because there are a few people who have started testing this out. So Zara, JCPenney, H&M, J. Crew. But if you want to get around it, what they're saying is that you can actually return in store. And so what you're talking about, getting them in store, because at the end of the day, bricks and mortar actually, came down obviously through the pandemic. Now they have all of these locations. They're able to shut down some, but they've got to keep most of them open. And for them to be able to keep those open, they need to get people through those doors. They need to get people into those stores. And so one way to actually avoid that charge is to return in store. I just did this with Dick's Sporting Goods over in Las Vegas. So it was crazy to me. I bought something online. They would not deliver to a store. So I could not get it delivered to the Chicago store when I was in Chicago. So I had to get it delivered to my friend in Las Vegas. When I got there, they didn't fit. So I had to go to the Dick's in Las Vegas. And I actually ended up buying, so it was leg guards for me as a catcher. I actually ended up buying a different pair of leg guards because obviously the other ones didn't fit. And I spent another $100 because I bought the chest protector.
Right. There you go. So it works. It works as an in-store model. Now, I will say there are, we have to deal with it, right? I mean, returns is just, it's a part of doing business. As we move to e-commerce, originally it was kind of a small kind of afterthought. Everybody was just focused on, hey, how do we sell stuff through a website? Now that it's really at scale, we got to figure out how to do it better. There are some different models. There are actually some businesses and technologies springing up specifically to address that issue. Key things, though, that I talk about when we talk about returns is as a retailer, that's not your primary business model, right? And so it is easy to fall into a trap that you're spending lots of time and money dealing with returns because it's not your core competency, right? And so you're doing it wrong and it's costing you a lot. So what's the goal of returns? To quickly, first of all, make sure that it's actually your thing and from your store. Because one of the things that happens is people take stuff back to the wrong store.
Right.
accidentally or on purpose. Second one is make sure it's legit. I don't know if you followed this, but there are some pretty high profile cases now where this is a form of fraud, where folks will have like a counterfeit version of a product, take it to a store to get a cash
Oh,
refund. Yeah, it was $1 million issue for Apple with iPhones.
wow.
There was a scam where they were bringing in
Crazy.
counterfeit iPhones, getting cash using the anyway, and people went to jail for that. So
Crazy.
that's the second thing is you need to make sure that you're not
Yep.
being cheated.
Mhm.
The third one that we run into is counterfeiting in general is a big problem in global supply chains. A lot of times, the way you find out that somebody is counterfeiting your product is because an unsuspecting customer returns it to you
Mhm.
and says, "Hey, what's wrong with this? Why was
Right.
somebody's right?" And so you want to be studying your returns for things that may be happening that you otherwise wouldn't know about, right?
Yeah.
It can be a
Yeah.
source of information. At the end of the day, if none of that is happening, you just want to have the fastest, cheapest process for looking at whatever gets returned, figuring out how you can get the most value out of that, and
Mhm.
then getting it done. So, do you dispose of it? Do you repackage it and resell it? Can you remanufacture it? But that's the key. Is like, first of all, let's make sure that it is what it is, what it's supposed
Mhm.
to be, and make sure that we're not getting cheated. And then quickly, make the evaluation. Can we fix something and sell it? Do we sell it as is? How do we get it out of here so it's not weighing down on your primary operation, which is
Yeah.
selling new stuff and keeping customers happy?
Well, and I'm so glad you went through that because Bayram asked, what is the main adjustments we take for reverse supply chain management? So I think you just answered that question. Thank you, Bayram, for that question. And thank you, Daniel, for answering that. Now, we only have 1 minute left because I
How
have to
did
go
that
through
happen?
the events at the end. But I did want to ask you real quickly what what can you do with an MBA in supply chain management? That was our third article. We're going to post the link so everybody can check it out. But Daniel, really quickly, supply chain is really, really huge right now. People are looking for that degree, or are they? Talk to us about that.
2 words: world domination,
Yes,
right?
finally.
MBA in supply chain or a master's in supply chain management or engineering, huge demand. Any program that you talk to will say, our program is so good that we have a 100% placement rate. But if you look at that and say all of the programs have 100%, then what you realize is there's a lot more demand than there is supply. It's a great time to be studying supply chain.
It absolutely is. And what they're saying too is upskilling to AI and learning about machine learning on the side as well. That is something really good to have in your back pocket, right?
Totally. Totally. And by the way, even if you're not, getting a degree doing, working towards college credits, a lot of universities, Sarah, are using our LinkedIn learning courses
Yeah.
in their graduate programs. So, some of that information is available to anybody who's got access to LinkedIn Learning.
And the other interesting thing about this particular article says that there's a lot of transferable skills when you are learning about supply chain and getting that degree in supply chain into other industries and into other roles as well. So, really, really interesting because there's a huge ROI on that. Anyways, now it's time for us to talk about where we're going to be. So, today, of course, I'm going to be at the Women in Supply Chain Conference here in Atlanta. The Logistics and Tech Summit is happening as well coming up November 15th and 16th. That's a virtual conference. So you can go in ahead and click the registration button for that. Reuters is going to be in Austin, Texas for the Logistics Technology USA conference the same time as the other one. And we've also got a LinkedIn Live event that is happening. I'm going to be hosting, and it's with Emerge. So who's in the driver's seat with your supply chain? Now, we definitely want you to come come and check this out with us. I'm going to be talking to the VP of Enterprise Sales at Emerge about what you really need to know about your supply chains in 2023. And of course, we've got Manifest coming up. I'll be back in Vegas at the end of January as well. And then, of course, we've got all of our live shows happening between now and the end of the month. Daniel, thank you so much for once again joining me on Thoughts and Coffee today. And thanks to everybody for joining us. But Daniel, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you. Tell Marina I said hi.
I will.
Have a great week.